G'day, Starlo here. It's the crack of dawn on a rather grey and overcast early summer's day, and I've just come out over the bar of my local estuary. It can be a bit of a hairy bar at times, but the forecast for today was fantastic. I picked this day about 4 or 5 days in advance because our weather forecasting these days is just so good. I rely on Fish Ranger, which is a great app made specifically for anglers, but there are plenty of other good weather apps as well, and most of them give you really good forecasts these days. So it showed that the swell height was pretty low. I've got a light offshore breeze at the moment, which you can probably hear on the mic. It's going to turn around to the northeast later on. Hopefully I'll have a feed of fish by then. I'm going to go out and chase some snapper and mowies and eating type fish. I really enjoy this, but look, you got to take safety seriously. I've got my inflatable PFD on. I've got my wrist strapped to the kill switch on, just in case I was to fall out of the boat or whatever. And I'm a little bit cautious about going offshore these days in trailer boats. You know, this is only a 5-metre boat. I pick my days, but I have some wonderful days offshore by using those good weather apps and just picking the windows and getting out there. All right, let's get out to the mark and see if we can catch some snapper. With the conditions like this, it doesn't take me too long to run out to some reef and gravel patches beyond the 40-metre depth contour. I've done reasonably well out here in the past, and I've got a bunch of marks on my GPS plotter that are all well worth checking out. So I'm out in about 45 or 50 metres now. I know there's some snapper and mowong marks through here, and I'm going to fish a series of them just using a simple paternoster rig with a sinker on the bottom and a couple of droppers and a couple of baits. Really good way to catch a feed of fish. But rather than just drifting or trying to anchor in this depth of water, I'm actually using the bow-mounted electric motor. Most people think of bow-mounted electrics for estuary and freshwater work, but I tell you what, on a nice day like this offshore, they work better than an anchor. You can just lock onto a spot, sit over it, have a bit of a fish, and then stop the spot lock or anchor function and just drift a little bit, watch the sounder, hit it again to stop whenever you want to. It's really convenient. It's a great way to fish. And a lot of these modern units now, you can store GPS marks in them. I'll put this mark in where we are now, and if I drift off it, I can just hit that button and come straight back to it. Fantastic way to fish. It's completely revolutionised my offshore fishing. If it's blowing and the current's running really hard, then the electric motor might struggle a bit to keep you on a spot, but on a day like today, it's just glorious. Okay, let's see if we can catch a couple of fish. Really important to just throw all your scraps in the water too. All my prawn heads and shells are going in the water. They add to the burley trail. I'm not too sure if the current's running too hard for it to do me much good today. It might be taking it a fair way back, but I'll let you know a little secret too. If I fish here for a while and the fish go a little bit quiet, what I'll do is just kill the spot lock, the anchor function, and just drift back down there, and quite often you'll find the fish might be 40, 50, 60, even 80 metres down current, feeding on all the scraps of bait that I've thrown in the water and the bits of dislodged bait that have come off the hook. It's a good little tip, that one, and it's very easy to do with the electric. I've got the chest mounted GoPro on here, so I'm hoping I might be able to show you a point of view of a hookup. Fingers crossed. There's a fair bit of current there, so the boat's holding steady and that rig's going back down current fairly quickly, even with that big sinker, so I might struggle a bit. Okay, it's on the bottom. Ooh, that was a good bite. And almost straight away I'm on, and it doesn't feel like a bad one. Yeah, that's a halfway decent fish. Nothing huge, but oh. It's not a bad fish. I'm gonna call it for, well, it's either a snapper or a mowie. I'm gonna call it for a mowie, actually. Important just to keep a tight line, don't give them any slack. Here it comes, and it is 2 fish, a mowie, 2 mowies. One nice one and one little one. Well, that one will definitely keep. Just pinned beautifully through the lip there. I do like these little hooks. They're a good looking fish and much better to eat than most people realise, if you do the right things with them. And this one I'm going to drop straight in the live well. Oh, he's a lively chap. Settle down, mate. This other one, one of the smallest mowies I've ever caught out here. He can definitely go back. Off you go. Yep, dive down, no worries at all. Alright, that's a start. The motor guide's doing its thing beautifully, holding me right on the spot, but I'm also using the remote control to shuffle around a bit while checking out the sounder. I'm just looking for a bit more life down there, or some likely structure that might hold a few fish. Interesting looking bit of bottom and some bait fish up above it, which is not a bad sign either. So I've just gone on to the anchor function. It's a good school of bait and a very interesting bit of bottom. That's what I'm looking at. And sure enough, I'm on again straight away. I'll save you from the potential boredom of watching the whole fight by fast forwarding through most of it. Oh, this one's the right colour. I might go for the net, I think. Got in. First show of red for the day. That's what we're after. That's a lovely snapper. Let's have a look at him. I'm going to icky spike this fish, just using an old screwdriver that I've sharpened up. I'll follow that preoperculum line up to behind the eye, go in at an angle, twist, and when you see the eyes do that and the fins stand up, you've hit the right spot and the colour changes. That fish is brain dead. What I'm going to do now is just take my knife and nick a couple of the gill arches as well, just to let it bleed. And I'll let it bleed out in water and then put it straight on an ice slurry. And then I'll add some salt water to my ice. It makes a huge difference to the quality of your catch when you look after it like this. Beautiful. Okay, send him down. Good bottom, but not a lot of fish life down there. I may have to move in and try a couple of shallower spots if the current's running too hard out here. Oh, bite straight away. There's not much point pumping and winding on a small fish like this. You start wondering about what it is. I reckon it might be a small snapper. And it is a small snapper. A little bit too small, that one. Right kind, wrong size. I'll quickly measure him, but I wouldn't keep him anyway. Believe it or not, he's legal. 30 centimetres, but I'm not going to keep him. He's nice and lively. Send him back down, off he goes like a shot. No barotrauma there. Size limit for snapper in New South Wales used to be 27 centimetres. It's gone up to 30 now, but I reckon it could go up further again. 35 would be pretty good, I think. Over in Western Australia they've got much bigger minimum size limits on their snapper, and I think it's been really good for their fishery. Oh, they're beautiful to eat, those little 30 centimetre ones. They call them platies. at the fish markets, because you can serve them just one whole on a plate, but I'd rather let them do a bit more growing and maybe spawn a couple of times before they get caught. That's pretty important in fisheries management too. Too many of our fish are allowed to be harvested at sizes that are smaller than the minimum size at which they spawn. One of the main reasons for having a minimum size limit is to allow a fish to spawn at least once before it can be harvested by either commercial or recreational fishers. There's nothing wrong with imposing your own bag and size limits, which is what I tend to do. The motor guide's plugging away nicely, holding on the mark, and I'm catching a few more fish, but I'm not setting the world on fire. 6-spine leather jacket. Good eating, actually. So I'll be keeping that one. I just felt the first little puff of the nor'easter. It was forecast to come up about this time today. It's not going to get overly strong early, but it's worth being aware of it. I can actually see ripples on the water up here now. It's lovely and calm around the boat, but a little bit north of me it's starting to ruffle up. And I think that nor'easter is just starting to kick in. With the fish now pretty quiet and the nor'easter starting to puff, I make the call to head in a bit early and get home in time for breakfast. It's a beautiful run back in, with the cloud and sea fog burning off to produce a magnificent summer's day. And I get a dream run in over the bar as well on the top of the tide. You've got to love that. Woohoo! Coming home with a feed of fresh caught fish is a great feeling, and so's knowing that you've left plenty out there for next time. If you've never tried using your bow-mounted electric motor offshore, give it a go. I reckon you might be pleasantly surprised. Tight lines.